My sister mocked me at the wedding itself. "You're not on the guest list. Losers don't get in. Go away." As she said this, my mother laughed alongside. So I took out my cell phone, called the bank, and canceled the payments. Hall, buffet, honeymoon. 15 minutes later, she called me crying. My name is Ivan, and ever since I can remember, my life has been completely different from my sister Daniela's. It's always been just the two of us. But inside that house, there was an invisible border that separated who was valued and who was forgotten. Daniela was the center of my parents' universe. Gabriel and Victoria, the perfect daughter who never made a mistake, who was admired even when she didn't do anything. And me, I was the one left behind, always one step behind. When I was 5 years old, my world revolved around running around the yard with a stick pretending to be a sword, or climbing the neighbor's mango tree to steal fruit. But even in these simple moments, I could see the signs. I remember one day when I must have been about 6 years old, my mother called me into the kitchen. She was making a cake. The smell of vanilla permeated the whole house. "Ivan, this cake is for Daniela," she said as she whipped up the batter. "She did well at school. She deserves a treat." That evening, Daniela ate 2 generous pieces, while I, at the other end of the table, held a piece of hard bread. "You don't need cake, Ivan," said my mother, when I asked for just a small piece. "You didn't behave as well as she did you?" I don't remember what I did wrong that day, but I do remember the feeling of being excluded. When Daniela was 7 and I was 9, my parents decided to send her to a private school, the kind with high walls, iron gates, and children arriving. In shiny cars, she went all dressed up in an impeccable blue uniform, with a new rucksack on her back and a smile on her face as if the world belonged to her. "It's an investment in her future," said my father. "Daniela has talent. We can't waste it." "And me?" I asked one day, standing in the living room, with the soles of my worn-out sneakers already coming off. "You go to the neighborhood school anyway, Ivan," my father replied without even looking up. "It's free. It's good for you." While Daniela was learning English and taking tests with advanced content, surrounded by teachers who praised her, I was in a public school where the blackboards were scratched, the fans didn't work, and the teachers barely appeared. When I turned 17, my life turned another page. I was trying to fix an old radio I found in the trash when my father came into the room without knocking. "Ivan, go into the living room," he said in that dry tone that brooked no argument. I sat down on the sofa and he stood, arms crossed, staring. "You've grown up. It's time to start working. I've got you a job at Mr. Roberto's Ironworks. You start tomorrow." Without a question, without a choice, he just said, "It's for the good of the family." That evening, my mother patted me on the shoulder. "You'll do fine, Ivan. Work is work." The work was hard. I woke up at 6, got on a bus that was always full, and arrived at a dusty warehouse, full of boxes and tools. Mr. Roberto was a grumpy man who corrected every step I took. "Ivan, faster. Ivan, that's not going there. Ivan, don't be useless." At first, I came home with a broken body, cut hands, a broken back, swollen feet, but over time, I got used to it. Meanwhile, Daniela, aged 19, entered university. Not just any university, a private university with a campus that looks like a hotel, where students walk around with a laptop on their arm. My parents were ecstatic. "Daniela is going to be a lawyer," my father told everyone. We always knew she was special, and who was paying for this? University? All my salary went straight into an account controlled by my mother, and that wasn't enough. My parents took out a loan to cover the shortfall. "It's for the good of the family," they kept saying. "Daniela needs it. You have to help." They never asked me if I also wanted to study, if I dreamed of a life other than stacking boxes and carrying a crushed body day after day. And so 6 years went by, 6 years of waking up before the sun, coming home with aching bones, seeing my salary disappear during Daniela's college years had already become routine. When she graduated, at 23, my parents organized a party at home. They called everyone, uncles, cousins, neighbors. There was food, music, laughter. I came home late from work, still with dirty clothes and a heavy body. I stood in a corner, just watching people go up to Daniela, praising her, congratulating her, saying she was proud. My mother saw me from afar and said without even smiling, "Ivan, go and change. You can't stay like this." No one congratulated me for having paid for that achievement. No one thanked me for the years of salary I'd handed in. At 23, something inside me broke. It was an ordinary night. I came home after a long day, my hands full of grease and my head boiling. Daniela was laughing on the sofa, on the phone with her friends. My father was telling a neighbor how she had got a job in a big law firm. My mother in the kitchen was making a cake to celebrate, and I, standing in the doorway, felt like a stranger in my own house. That night, when everyone was asleep, I packed a backpack with the little I had, 2 shirts, a pair of pants, a toothbrush, and I left without looking back. The first few months were tough. I rented a small room in a cheap hostel, with damp walls and a mattress that creaked with every movement. But this time, the money was mine. I scraped together what I could. I slept little, ate the bare minimum, and so I got back on my feet. I got a job in a car parts store. I've always been good with my hands, so I learned quickly. I saved every penny, and at 25, I opened my own business. A small mechanic's shop with a crooked sign that read, Taller Ivan. It was simple, but it was mine. For the first time, I felt I had value. A year later, my parents came looking for me. I was under a car, changing the oil in an old Fiat. When the phone rang, it was my father. Ivan, son, how are you? He said in a low, strangely soft voice. He said that they missed me, that they regretted how they had treated me. My mother cried on the phone, saying that she wanted us to be a family again. I hesitated, but a part of me, the part that always wanted to be accepted, ended up saying yes. I came back. At first, everything seemed different. My father asked about the workshop. My mother made rice with chicken, my favorite dish. Daniela greeted me with a smile. I thought that maybe, this time, it was real, and it was. For about 3 months, until one evening, Daniela sat down with me on the sofa. Ivan, I'm getting married, she said suddenly, her eyes shining as if she'd won the lottery. She told me that her boyfriend, Marcos, had proposed to her a few weeks earlier. I hardly knew this Marcos. Tall, dark-haired, always well-dressed, with a way of holding everything in his hands. Daniela said they had been together for a year and wanted to do something special. It's going to be a big party, Ivan, she explained, gesturing as if she were drawing the scene in the air. A beautiful hall, good food, live music, and a honeymoon on a beach with sun and sea. But then came the request. I've been made redundant and my parents can't help. Could you pay for everything? She asked, smiling. She wanted me to pay for the ceremony, the buffet, the band, the trip, everything. You're doing well, aren't you? She added with that smile that always opened doors. At that moment, I understood why they had come to me after a year of silence, but, idiot that I am, I didn't want to see it that way. I believed it was different, that they were finally including me out of affection, not out of interest. My father looked up from the newspaper and said, "That would be nice, even. Daniela deserves it." My mother, from the doorway, nodded. It's a chance for us to be a family again. And I, wanting so much to believe, swallowed it all. Okay, I replied after a few seconds. I'll help. Daniela hugged me like she had never done before. Thank you, Ivan. You don't know how much this means to me. My father patted me on the shoulder, and my mother smiled as if she had just won something. I went to sleep thinking I was doing the right thing, that maybe I would finally have a place in that house. The following months were a whirlwind. Daniela and my mother took care of everything. They rented a fancy hall in the center of town, with white columns and chandeliers that looked like crystal. They hired a buffet with food I couldn't even pronounce. Meats, salads, sophisticated desserts. A band was booked, the kind that makes everyone dance until they're tired. The honeymoon would be in a hotel facing the sea, with a private beach and rooms more expensive than what I earned in a month. The bills came straight to me, and I paid them without complaint. Almost all the money I had saved from the workshop went away in checks and transfers. But I didn't care. I thought I wasn't just paying for a party, I was buying something bigger, a place, a belonging. At home, they continued to treat me well. My father would call me for a beer on Sundays, something unheard of. My mother would ask me what I wanted to eat and would do my laundry without me asking. Daniela came with Marcos from time to time, and they both thanked me enthusiastically every time I paid for something. You're the best brother, Ivan, she said. Thank you. This wouldn't be possible without you, said Marcos, shaking my hand, and I believed it. For the first time, I seemed to be seen. The day of the ceremony came quicker than I had imagined. It was a spring Saturday. The sun was shining and the wind was blowing lightly through the trees. I wore the best I had. A white shirt bought just for the occasion, black pants that were a little baggy, and a pair of shoes that I polished carefully. It wasn't an elegant suit like Marcos, but it was the best I could offer. I arrived at the salon, early with a knot in my stomach, a mixture of nervousness and pride after all. I had paid for everything, every detail, every flower, every light hanging from the ceiling was my sweat. I thought, today they'll see me. Today I'll be part of the family. At the entrance, a girl with a list in her hand stopped me. Hola, soy Iván, el hermano de la novia. She frowned. Check the list again. Lo siento. No estás en la lista. I froze. What do you mean? She called someone, and then Daniela appeared. Beautiful, a dress that looked like it came out of a fairy tale, but her gaze was cold. Iván, what's wrong? I explained that it wasn't on. The list. She let out a laugh that cut me like a knife. Iván, it's obvious you're not on the list. Losers don't get in. My mother appeared right behind me. Iván, don't make a fuss. Today is Daniela's day. Winner's day. You shouldn't be here. They both started laughing. There, at the door of the salon I'd paid for, I stood there, feeling the ground disappear beneath my feet. Firm voice, with restrained anger. I walked to the corner, took out my cell phone, and called the bank. I want to cancel all outstanding payments. Hall, Buffett, honeymoon, everything. The clerk confirmed it. It's done. I got on my bike and left. 15 minutes later, the cell phone vibrated. It was Daniela. Iván, what have you done? They've canceled everything. The salon, the food, everything. She was desperate, crying. The party had turned into a disaster. Telomerasis. That's all I said, and I hung up. I went straight to my refuge, my beloved little taller Iván E. Threw the bike in a corner, lay down on the old cot, and stared at the ceiling. No regrets, none. My cousin Juancho told me later. He says it was chaos. The salon manager appeared, tense. Señorita, the final payment hasn't come in without. There's no event. The guests didn't understand. Daniela started shouting, demanding explanations, but there was no talking. Sin pago, no hay servicio. That day, I didn't lose a family. I freed myself from a lie, and I gained something much more valuable. Self-respect. People began to surround Daniela. ¿Qué pasa? They asked. Others just looked on uncomfortably, checking their cell phones or sitting at empty tables. Daniela tried to keep her composure. Es un malentendido. Ya se va a solucionar. But her voice was shaking, and so were her hands. Then, Marcos the groom appeared furious. ¿Qué está pasando? He shouted, his face red and his fists clenched. She tried to explain, crying, saying that it was my fault, that I had canceled everything, but he wouldn't listen. This is a shame. You leave me like an idiot in front of my family. Do you know what it cost me to bring them here? She begged him to calm down, but he just shook his head, turned around and walked away, leaving Daniela alone. That's when Daniela really collapsed. Threw herself on a chair, her white dress all crumpled, her dirty tail dragging on the floor. She began to cry loudly, a cry that couldn't be ignored. The guests. Some left in silence, others just put their hand on her shoulder, a little awkwardly, and they left too, and so the wedding was over. My cousin Juancho told me everything, laughing. We laughed together, I thanked him for the story, and we agreed to have a few beers later. The next day, my mother called. ¿Cómo pudiste hacerle eso a tu hermana, desgraciado? I just said, you're all self-interested. I don't want to see any of you ever again. And I hung up. I wasn't going to argue. The relationship with them was over. The years passed. My taller grew. In time, I bought a simple little house on the outskirts of town. I planted a lemon tree in the backyard. I didn't get married. I didn't have children, but I found a life that fulfilled me. Loyal customers, real friends, quiet evenings with a beer and a good book, my family, I knew very little, Daniela. Moved away, they say, to start over, my parents. Stayed in the same house, living their days in silence. Sometimes, when I ride my motorcycle through the old neighborhood, I look at that house from afar. I don't go in, I don't care. I just follow. There's no more hurt, just distance. They made their choices, and I made mine, and my choices led me to a place where I don't need anyone to tell me what I'm worth.